Welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck. I'm Mark Carpet. Of course, with me is Mr. Matt Germain as we thumb through the Rolodex of the players that are supposed to be playing at the World Baseball Classic. Who's supposed to be playing for USA? I don't know, and I don't know if their manager did either. DeRosa had presumed that they had already gotten their place in the World Baseball Classic, I guess, at the quarterfinals there, but come to find out after most of the way through a game that no, that was not the case. They did not already have a lock in there. So I don't know if that's what we want to talk about much today, Matt, but it's one of those things. It's just unfortunate. And what do you do?
Well, do you remember we were talking to Larry about the rings at the Trop and how the umpires didn't know the rules about those? I kept thinking about that. I was like, how is it that people in these leadership positions and important positions don't do their homework? It would be as if you're in charge of a convention or something like that, and you don't do the research, get things set up the right way or whatever. And if it's that important to you and your career is on the line and your reputation is on the line, etc., like you've got to know that you're under a microscope of some sort while you're there. You're representing the country, right? Th- Even if it's not Mark himself, somebody on his staff should have said, "Hey, by the way."
Thank you. I mean, a bench coach. I believe these teams have general managers too, for that matter. I mean, somebody should be putting the pencil to paper and saying, we never done one of these before, have we? With round robin and all that. I don't know what to do next. But come on, people. Talk about keeping your eye on the ball. Somebody wasn't. It was sad. And I've got to tell you, Matt, there's a lot of folks that are not pulling for the USA this year, and it's a lot of people in the USA aren't. They're. I'm going to be political for half a minute. I'll just simply say it. They don't want to see a visit to the White House. But
That would be interesting to see how many players would actually go. Like they didn't have the whole hockey team go, so
did they?
what would happen in the baseball version?
Well,
But
DeRosa would show up.
yeah, it would be, in a way, this can kind of bind a team too, though,
Yeah.
because if they do get in, which I think most people are assuming that the percentages are in their favor, even though this happened and it did jeopardize things, the percentages would have to work out. So basically, Mexico would have to score four or fewer runs more than Italy in this one in order for the U.S. team to get into the next step of the tournament.
And
But
I'm looking right now live, and it's the bottom of the fourth, and Italy is leading 2-0, and
yeah.
Randy has just struck out. So
Uh, Jonathan Aranda, the previous time up, had hit a double, a really good one off the left center field wall. So they're like in these kinds of games, because you're flipping through pitchers so much, the later innings almost matter more than the early innings. Because they did face Aaron Nola there to start the game. That's going to be tough, and he's a really good performer. But
mhm.
once he's gone, then who is coming up next? I think that's where Italy's challenges are, is especially once you've used a lot of these pen guys against the US and had a really emotional game, there tends to be a few more holes to play through. But I think the thing that I will say about the US as well is it's not the first year the tournament is played.
No.
Like you had research that you can do, right?
Yeah.
And this is not the first time that these kinds of qualifiers had happened. It's a lack of preparation. And again, I think we've spoken about this with the Yankees. It's the same feeling I get with the Yankees. There's an entitlement
Mhm.
issue
Mhm.
with that sort of frame of mind, like, oh, we're supposed to be in. What do you mean we wouldn't be in? Like that's preposterous,
Mhm.
right?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I
Um,
mean, you get to the point where you can take things for granted, and I think that's maybe with D Rose as well. But my gosh, brother, uh, I mean, he was even chatting with his boys on MLB Network like the day before, and neither one of them said, "Oh, by the way, you might want to think about, neither Harold Raines, I forget the other guy's name, said anything." And I was reading John Heyman's article, and it mirrored the same philosophy that on Tuesday is like. Yeah. Looking back with Wednesday, with I wonder what he said. Can I delete that? Can I take that out? Now here's something funny. I heard that the MLB Network did start trying to fiddle faddle with some of the comments and what was said and the misspeaking. It's like, hey, it's out there. Come on. Once it's on the internet, it's out there. Just don't worry about it. I don't think this is critical to anybody's career. I hope not. It's silly if it is, but it's a little bit of entertainment of what's going on with the World Baseball Classic above and beyond what's on the field. And my gosh, what have we got on the field? Well, okay, buddy, I'm going to ask you, Mr. Team Canada, you have tell me what's going on, brother.
So I think I mentioned before where I wasn't expecting very much this year because you never know how the pitching is going to show up, right? Especially with a team like Canada,
Mhm.
where they do have guys that have MLB experience, but generally it's the guys after that that have been really kind of up and down and hard to kind of get in the right form. The shortstop that I had said could have shown up and been a factor decided to stay in spring training with the Tigers. Freddie Freeman wasn't showing up this
Yeah.
year. There was a lot of things that were playing kind of like to a toned down Canadian roster. But the guy that Freddie Freeman had mentioned in the last World Baseball Classic that he was hoping to play with and he was pumped about, who didn't end up showing up because he had injury issues going on, was Abraham Toro.
Mm.
And Abraham Toro is having an outstanding World Baseball Classic. Him and Owen Caissie have both really put the team on their shoulder, and it's adding a really good thump to the lineup that has Josh Naylor and a lot of other guys that are not going to, they're not going to give up many at bats without working hard and
Yeah.
trying to pressure the other team through them. They're doing a great job of hitting clutch. They had the one messy game where they were kind of playing sloppy D, so they did lose that one game. But if I would have told you before the tournament started that they would beat Puerto Rico and Cuba back to
Ooh.
back, you would have been pretty stoked about that, right? Like
I,
that.
I, I would have thought, well, okay, Matt, I'll give you the Canada will win one of those. They're not going to get both of those. That would
Right.
have definitely been my response to you on that because we're looking at some very high talent. And you're talking about Naylor's there and some other ones. Was it Casey? How young is he? Is he still at prospect level?
Yeah, he was traded from the Cubs to the Marlins, so our friend Lou is going to get to enjoy him all year round, and they're gonna, they traded a heck of an arm in Edward Cabrera to go and land him, but I would say there's more risk in Cabrera staying healthy. I would have kept Casey if I was the Cubs because I have a
Really?
feeling he is going to be a heck of a player. He's hitting 500 for the tournament, so 7 for
Mm.
14, leads the WBC in hits and he's only 22, I think, or 23 years old. I can't remember which. He's going to be with Canada for quite a while. He'll be a good leader for them to have aboard. And yeah, it's great to see new talents come through. It doesn't mean anything for the season, but it does show that he can perform under pressure, right? Like the WBC is a little bit more of a amped up version of spring training, if we want to put it that way. All throughout the tournament, you're seeing young talents and some old talents come through, and it's a great tournament for that. It's almost like a sandlot feel to
Oh
it
yeah.
when you think about it. Like not the crowds aren't always there, like depending on which teams are playing and where the game is actually located. Some of them have been really hyped up and pumped, like the ones over in Asia, and I think the most USA games have been pretty, upbeat. Dominican Republic games have been upbeat. Um, so the feeling around the WBC is fun. It's fun, and it's great to have right now.
I mean, absolutely. And you look at these teams, and you and I both have talked about the Dominican Republic. I was at a game the other day. I went and saw the Tigers. Okay, all right, this is Monday. I wake up and thinking, man, spring training games left. Oh, there's Tigers are just down the road, 20 minutes. Oh, I wonder who they're playing today. Oh, they're playing the Rays. Okay. So I get online and I look up for some tickets. And lo and behold, I find some reasonable ones. And it's like, oh, $27. I'll buy myself a ticket for that. So
Hmm.
I get the ticket and I get down there and I'm looking at the ticket. That says I'm in row CC. So I figured, got past A through Z and then A, B, C, C, C. But CC was the third row back from the field next to the Tigers duck out.
Ooh, sweet.
Oh, yeah, and so put the cherry on top. I got to see Shane McClanahan pitch two and a third innings. You know, no man, and it's so much. So spring training's still going on. I didn't want to get completely away from the World Baseball Classic, but I gotta tell you, it's it's just exciting to see so many great players. But I also tell you that there was a lot of them. I said, "Who is this guy? Who is this fella?" You know, I don't see a Rod. I don't see Yandy. I don't see. Well, you didn't see a lot of people, but it was interesting nonetheless. There were some really good players out there, and something to look forward to the future. The Rays have already seen a few cuts from the teams, maybe a couple of people that were not expected, a couple of pitchers, but DeLuca's looking really good. And wow.
Yep. I want to start like here just because I think it's fun, right? So the Blue Jays had quite a run last year, right?
Yeah.
They went to the World Series. They gave about as close of a World Series type win as you could get without actually winning it. Right? They got the closest you can possibly get, like one Miguel Rojas home run away from winning it. And they finished this spring. I don't know if you remember this. Probably you don't because you're not that nerdy, I don't think. They finished the spring with an 18 and 10 record leading MLB, right? So
Okay.
we like to say that spring training is not an indicator of what the season is going to be like because it's again, like so often it doesn't end up playing out. You can go year after year after year, and point out the ones that didn't make it through that kind of train of thought. But the year before that, the Baltimore Orioles had a heck of a spring as well. They ended up winning the 91 games that year in 2024, and they made the playoffs, and they really made a good run of it, right? I think sometimes we underrate the importance of having a strong spring
Hmm.
because it's one of those things that can indicate a lot of things. It can indicate health, it can indicate competition, it can indicate depth and the amount of people that you have to lean on through that season. There's a lot of ingredients in spring training that we underrate constantly, I believe. And what I like to see, and the reason that I brought it up, because it's one of those things that I've said over and over and over again on this show, but the Pittsburgh Pirates are a team that I've felt bad for forever. And right now, they're sitting there at 12 and 6, and they're basically one game behind the Braves for top spot in spring training so far. So I love to see that. The teams that they're competing with are the Braves and the Nationals. Like it's not just the Dodgers, it's not just the Yankees. The Yankees are doing well this spring as well. But I wanted to highlight the Pirates because Connor Griffin, I know people online have been talking about whereabouts they're drafting him because he's so hyped right now. And if you watch him play, it's sort of like watching Paul Skeens. Like they've lucked out in getting two phenoms back to back in terms of their potential. And I have a feeling that Connor Griffin will be oh, essentially the similar kind of bat as putting Aaron Judge at shortstop. And so if you're able to get Aaron Judge in a fantasy lineup at shortstop, why wouldn't you, right?
I can't imagine. Yeah, really.
Yeah, and so I've been drafting him in the top 40 in my drafts this year. I play Dynasty really deep, rosters. And when you're making that kind of commitment to a young player, it can make or break your next 2, 3, 4 years, depending on how you've rostered everybody else. So it's a big investment, but I really think that between him and assuming Paul Skeens stays healthy, it's giving them that punch like you would look at the Yankees and say, okay, Jarrett Cole and Aaron Judge were that punch for years and years and years. With the Dodgers, it was, Clayton Kershaw and whatever player you want to pick, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, etc. Like there's always that balance of a really dominant pitcher and a really dominant hitter.
Yeah.
Then you can have that carry your team, right? You could say that the Angels lacked that dominant pitcher to pair with Mike Trout all those years, even though they had Ohtani, but he wasn't really pitching, to that same amount. So I see the Pirates as a really intriguing team this year, and I'm really happy that they brought some veteran help within that roster to give them a boost. But watching some of their players that they have through the spring, I have a good feeling about what they're going to be able to do, and I think the National League is on notice.
Well, I'd like to see some things happen from as well, especially since I felt like as a Rays fan, we've taken advantage of them too many times in the past. What did we give them Archer and take Glass now and some moves of that nature is like good gravy. Who's handling the purse strings? I mean, Eric Neander, we love you. You made some great calls, but I figured somebody in that. It reminds me of that movie Draft. Was it Draft Day? And with Costner said, who's that new young GM they got over that one team? Well, let's see if we can work a deal with him.
Mhm.
But no, the Pirates, man, that'd be great to see them actually rise up this year.
Yeah.
So they're due.
So looking back at the game, what are your hints and wants and needs for the Italy-Mexico game? Do you think that it'll be Italy going through? Do you think it'll be Mexico going through? Have you watched them both play?
I've watched Mexico. I've not really seen Italy. I watched a little bit of the results because Jack Caglione from being from Florida around here. It was neat to see what he's done. Looks like he just stole a base, must have had a hit earlier or walked earlier, and then that. And I know he had a home run the other day. Um, but my heart's wherever Randy is. Let's face it. So I have been watching Mexico, and Rhonda's there too, correct?
That would be a great shirt. You had me at Randy.
We got to start making merch, brother. Yeah.
I, I think we should. Oh man, that's a good
You
idea.
had me at Randy. I
Yeah.
like that. Oh, no. We talked about him last week and about characters and about him and him coming
Mhm.
back and coming in the stands and Randy Land after he had already been traded. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
But to
what about
talk,
you? Go ahead.
yeah, I think, like we just talked about Mark DeRosa and the awareness of the game and where it is. Like I think it depends more on the coaches than ever.
Yeah,
Because the instincts of when to pull a pitcher, in what moment, in what inning, that's going to decide the game. So that's why I'm asking, like, I don't know that Cervelli can be beat in that way. And I think
hmm
that's why he was successful against the US. He pulled the right, strings at the right time. So I actually think that having a catcher back there that's able to kind of conceptualize the game and know the tournament well, that gives them an edge, I think. But having said that, I do think Mexico has the more seasoned roster who can come through late in the game if they're able to actually pull off some hits. And Alejandro Kirk behind Jonathan Aranda, I mean, those are two guys that can change a game in a hurry. So we'll see how it plays out. As long as it's a good game and it's a good tournament, I don't care. Like if the US makes it through, that'll amp up whatever quarterfinal game they get to.
true.
Uh, so that's not a bad thing either. And if they lose the quarterfinal after losing that game to Italy, it almost makes it worse, right? They're not bailed out just because they make the quarterfinals. They'll still be called out for the way that things rolled out. So I think there's a lot of pressure on that team right now.
Well, you mentioned our good buddy Lou earlier, and he lives in Miami. He is a Marlins season ticket holder, and he does have the tickets for the WBC there.
Mhm.
And man, I know he is excited about it. He's going to be going to some of those and certainly get down here in the quarterfinals and finals. It's interesting to see. He was telling me about the price of the tickets. Yeah, they've definitely gone through the roof at least 10 times their value is. And it's stunning. I'm going to get back
I
to
do,
go ahead.
yeah, I do want to mention one last thing. Remember we had
Please.
said, how active will ice be around these stadiums?
Yeah.
And I don't think I've heard or read too much. I've heard rumblings and hints of this and hints of that, but I haven't heard of like mass action from authorities looking to stir things up and get things going, as far as I know. So we were talking about the World Cup before, and I know Iran's already pulled out for obvious reasons, but that speaks to that tournament. So if we look at the World Cup now, I think if you're somebody considering going to the US to attend a game, you would look at the WBC and you would be like, okay, well, maybe I can do it comfortably now because I know that it worked out for the WBC.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. I mean, if you live in this country and you're an immigrant, and even if you're an American citizen, there has to be some consideration when you go to any public event. And certainly with sporting events, and especially with sporting events where you have a high number of folks that have Latin heritage, from a country, whether it be South America, Central America, even Europe. But yeah, I have not heard of any incidents. And way things are in the world right now, hopefully hopefully that is getting toned down quite a bit, is certainly
Mhm.
during this, because the uproar, I think, from something like that at a major sporting event like this
Mhm.
would be impactful. I'll just leave it at that. There's other words I was going to use, but impactful is the only one I'm going to use at the moment. Uh, no, 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 no. But getting back to business of baseball, I'm talking about loose tickets. Did you see where the raised tickets for opening day, what they're going for now?
I'm glad that you asked. It's insane.
Oh yeah.
How did they come to that number?
It is dynamic pricing, dude. It is supply and demand, because what they have is, if you bought them at, guess 6 months ago, whatever you would have bought them at, it'd be
Mm.
fine. But it goes up with supply and demand. So you could probably get those tickets cheaper on Ticketmaster or StubHub or SeatGeek than you'll be able to get them through the Raise portal. And I mean, I've heard, again, prices are just 4 to 5 times more than what the ticket price is, and you're buying this through the Rays organization. And I just don't think that is a good look when you're trying to cultivate fans. And if you want to sell that puppy out, hell, go ahead and have some crazy sale for the last day. I mean, you talked about this before. Open up the 300 level and put them all in there for $20 a seat, whatever. But I'm sorry to hear that it's trading like a stock market.
So I never did any deep dives on the Jacksonville, ticket price situation when in AAA
Yep.
for Ken Babby, but and the same thing in Akron. Like I didn't do any research on that, but I wonder if there's a method to the madness sort of thing, where it, I don't know, like I could do the math in my head, but if you have 15,000 fans that paid 4 times the price instead of 20,000 fans that paid the lower price, then you're still further ahead with the 15,000 than the 20,000, right? So it's kind of a ludicrous math thing to do, but I think anybody doing groceries nowadays is feeling that exact same kind of pinch. You're basically watching these companies jack up the prices to the point where they know you like most of this stuff is going to get thrown out, but they do the cost analysis and they say, well, you know what? It doesn't matter if it gets thrown out. We're still making more money in the end. So we're going to keep doing it. And so, this is the fallacy of business and growth and everything else that goes along with it is it's not fair. And it is never going to be fair so long as we live in a capitalist society. But, it is like I grew up, I think I've told you this before, Mark. I grew up going to Montreal at the Olympic Stadium. We were a family of six. And our parents could have never taken us to the park or never would have if we were paying, you know, even $20 a ticket back then. Like it
Yeah.
would have been too much for the budget that they were working with. So we had the $1 seats in the nosebleeds. We had a cooler full of snacks and we made do with that. And so I look at baseball nowadays, and my love from baseball comes from that, comes from the family events, from the talking, from the whole day of it. Never mind, I didn't care if the game was 5 hours long. It's just an event, right, that you went to, and knew that that day was the baseball day. So my heart breaks when I hear about these ticket prices and the way
Yeah.
that they're trying to gear things. Because I think that it first of all, it only makes baseball available to a certain part of society, which isn't great. And then you get to this other place where do they really appreciate it a lot of times, you
Do
know?
you mean the fans, do they appreciate it? Or what do you say?
Yeah, yeah, the fans. Like you know how if you don't have to work really, really, really hard for something and earn it because you're given it instead.
Right.
There's a lot of that series, not all of them, obviously, but a lot of the fans in the stands that are able to afford those kinds of things, are in a place where entertainment is just another day of a thing in life, and they don't really have to weigh the choices. They just know, okay, well, I want to go to the game, I'm going to go to the game. It's not really a passion. It's more of a, I'll use this analogy. So my dad wanted a guitar when he was a kid, right? And he
Okay.
worked for 2 years to be able to buy himself a Gibson, right?
Yep.
So when he got that guitar, how much do you think he appreciated that guitar, right? Do you feel like the majority of people buying tickets to the opening day and spending that money would have been those kinds of people that saved up and they had to be there for opening day and it was a dream of theirs and they wanted to pay 4 times? No, it's not. It's just basically wealthy people getting access to the game because they just so happen to be the only ones that are priced in. And so it kind of, I don't know.
Well, I
Yeah.
think there's a prestige to going to opening day, whether you really care about the game or not, or even by the game, I don't mean that specific game. I mean about baseball or not. There's a prestige to that. But I would like to think, Matt, that a lot of folks that are there because they are passionate about it. I know one way I almost think of it is like, do you come to church just on Christmas and Easter, and then are you just
Yeah.
doing, for family obligation? So do you come to the ballpark because it's an obligation a couple of times, or is it something you're passionate about? And man, I don't think we'll ever be able to talk enough about engaging the youth in the love of the game.
Mhm.
Um, we heard some things that Jane Levy had to say, and I still think we have to look at putting some of those in play. And I do believe that Ken Babby has the capability and hopefully the willingness to deploy some strategies like that with the Rays. I think that there's just too much possibility for doing something else. Who was it? You said was it Zalewski who had posted something about the old uniforms and he put the little moon eyes or whatever there
Right.
as a response. I'm hoping that that kind of playfulness also equates to good business sense in addressing what fans want and need, and that would also equate to the fan experience in the ballpark.
I saw them put up 4 versions and have fans vote on it. So the designs are out and they're looking at all of them have that tail or whatever, and I think they're the grays. So it's just a matter of how the writing is, what colors are where, that kind of thing. They definitely want to involve fans, which is great. And I will
Mhm.
say this about the ticket prices. I looked beyond opening day and they do calm down quite a bit right away. So it definitely is an amped up version for the opening day. But I do remember when I was a kid, like at the Olympic Stadium, I would go and on opening day, it was a tradition of ours. We would skip school and we would go, and the whole stadium would be shaking, right? Because there's
Yeah.
55,000 fans at the time in Montreal on opening day. Um, so there is a feeling about that opening day, like, and we didn't have to out like stretch our wallets at the time. I think it might have cost us $10 instead of the $1 to go in the outfield at the time.
Well,
So yeah, I think the Rays are going to run a lot of promotions. They're going to do a better job, I think, of interacting with fans overall. Like I definitely get that feel from this front office. The design that they came up with for the stadium, assuming it gets built, I saw some news about it coming out this week. Like things are rolling along and they're getting approvals and they got the gifted lands and they have the construction companies actually lining up and getting things sorted out. So I don't think it's going to take long for them to start digging into the ground. I think that they're going to lock this up because their lease at the Trop ends after the 2028 season,
That's
right?
right.
So they building wise, like yes, you can be efficient and you can do things at a certain speed, but when you're doing a unique design the way that they are, and there's such a huge area that they're developing,
Yeah.
like that's not something you do very quickly. So I'm hoping that we hear that very soon, and we're talking about fans, we're talking about attendance. Getting that locked in will draw people in. Just that in itself. It'll get people actually off the couch into the stadiums because then they know the team is staying there. It's going to be built there. And
Well,
I
they feel
think
like it's a commitment, man. I mean, they feel like the Rays have made a commitment when they see that happen. So many people feel, I think, like they're living in some kind of limbo about having a team. And
Mhm.
that's time and again, well, keep saying when they put the girders in the ground, that's when I'm going to say, okay.
I do have one question though. This is a fun one, okay? Something that's come up in a lot of cities, major cities, Toronto is one when they were going for the NBA championship. They had watch parties in the streets, right?
Yeah.
So let's say the Buccaneers or the Lightning are in the playoffs. Could you not use the entertainment area at the new stadium as a watch party area and sell tickets to it and split that with the other teams? Like there's a whole especially in Florida, like you're in a warm environment, it's going to be dry, you can make such a fun time of it. Oh my goodness, like drinks flowing
Oh
and
yeah.
games and all that kind of stuff, but I can see what they're building attracting that kind of event through a playoff, through a series, and making it a more steady thing. Another one is the Winterfest. I know the old Trop used to do this as well. You guys had I don't know what it was called, but it was almost like a constant
You'd
winter
walk through, there
park.
was Christmas trees all lit up, this whole fair that you could walk through like I guess like a winter wonderland. I never actually went to it, but it's something for the community because that is a place where people can gather and without rain, hey, that's always good. And the heat, it's gone. I've talked before about my visit to Fenway a couple of years ago, and somebody said, "Oh, so you got the Tropicana feeling, huh?" And like that day it was 42 degrees and sleep was coming down. And I was like, yeah, Tropicana Field, 72 degrees and no rain, bud. So,
The other thing is like the security of the citizens in Tampa.
yep,
So we saw in Houston when you use the stadium, this area that you're talking about 22 acres, you can fit a lot of people in 22 acres of land.
yep.
Like, that's a substantial place for hurricane evacuations, people that can be evacuated. If they actually want to use it for medical purposes, and if they have it set up with solar power and water, etc., all the basic necessities you would need. Like I've talked about that on D-Ray's base so many times, like about the linking of stadiums with what society actually needs in that city to make it a focal point of that city and a heartbeat of that city. Like you can involve it at so many different levels that they don't do enough of right now. But in your case, like there's no better example than saying, hey, it tore the roof off of our last stadium.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that. I mean, Larry was talking about that a couple weeks ago too. It's like, well, I don't know. I look at all those cots down there and don't know if it's going to be the best choice. But wow. So,
It's
do
fun.
you have plans for opening day? Do you have you and the family going to gather around the tube and watch a specific team? And what's your ideas for that day?
For opening day, I generally hop around channels a lot. So I generally like to watch it on my own just because I feel like if I'm with a whole bunch of people, they're not going to want to watch all the games that I want to tune into.
There you
There's
go.
certain players, certain moments, etc. But I do have my kids watch baseball with me to teach them about the game as much as
That's
I can.
cool. That's
It's
really
not
cool.
always easy, but you do what you can when you can. And I think they've gotten to know the game pretty well for the amount of time that they haven't played it.
Mm. Well,
So
being around you, Dad, I can't imagine how they wouldn't. And geez, these. I know opening day, since the Rays won't actually have their opening day until almost like 2 weeks, I think, into the season.
Mhm.
I'm going to an event at the Tampa Baseball Museum, and Joe Madden and Matt Joyce are going to be there.
Oh,
And so that'll be fun. Rather limited crowd, mostly just because the space there. So I think it's pretty well sold out, but that'll be kind of neat seeing some guys from the Rays earlier on. Madden and Joyce, and there's potentially elements are going to be there as well. So there'll be a lot of swapping of stories. And while the game may be on a TV and being played on some radio out there as well, I think the conversations are going to be a big part of that event. So we'll see how that plays. I may find myself also in a bar with 27 screens trying to watch as much as I can. Who knows?
ESPN Zone was fun for that. It's a perfect kind of atmosphere for it too. But I think the season in baseball is great when you have opening day. Everybody is 0-0. Everybody has the hopes and dreams of all the new prospects and new players they acquired. The freshness of the season, you haven't had all the pain of it yet. So you're sort of you're glossy-eyed
There you go.
and there's something good about that, like refreshing. But I do feel for some reason because the CBA is coming up this year, and I don't want to bring it up in a negative light, but I feel like it could be, Mark, the last 162 game
Hmm.
season that we ever watch. I'm just going to throw it out there. I think in the next CBA, there's going to be some sort of adjustment, and I don't know to what level. But I feel like there's a good chance that they'll snippet a couple of them for playoff increase.
Yeah.
And also once they actually get the expansion completed, which I know is still on the radar for a lot of people, it'll make more sense to do it that way. And instead of having the shorter wild card, they'll have a regular series for everybody.
Yeah.
Basically, if you make the playoffs, you get a regular amount of games, but I feel like that's coming. And so it's kind of a weird season this year is to know that you're in a CBA year that could be volatile and it could be the last time like we've seen some rule changes, but the games ones has been pretty consistent all the way through. So, yeah, something to look out for.
I would welcome fewer games for the players' health as much as anything else. And let's face it, they've kind of expanded the postseason as far as how many teams can come in. I mean, and how many more games are going to have to play. So there's been a more stress on the team postseason. And you expect these guys to be healthy the time they come back for the following season. Yeah, I can see where that could be a critical part of negotiations.
Yeah, I remember when we had Larry on, I looked at when him and Lou were with the Reds and actually made the playoffs.
Yep.
Or didn't make the playoffs. They just missed it, right? They had won, I think, 90 games or 91 games. Can't remember which. But then I looked at what actually happened in the playoffs, and it was so few games. Like it was lightning fast, right? It
Yeah.
was four teams that made the playoffs. That's it. And then there was two series, but the first series was very quick, and then the last one was very quick as well. So I think it was something like 9 to 13 games, something like that total, for
Oh
all the
gosh.
playoffs. And I'm looking at that in comparison to today, and people still complain there's too many teams today. I'm looking back at that, and I like it explains so much about Montreal
Yeah.
and all the times that we missed out on the playoffs because we were always just the second or the third or you never could get yourself up to that level.
Jeez.
So I'm so happy baseball has moved on from that time frame. Like so many careers were shorted from not having exposure to the playoffs through those decades just because, they didn't have the right team to make it in there. So yeah, I think the playoffs is going to be an interesting change. In 2026, the other things I kind of look forward to is the introduction of the ABS system. I think that's a revolutionary system. It's going to actually we've talked about that before, where there's less managers kicking sand on the umpires anymore. They're not getting face to face and spitting on each other anymore as much, if any,
As
at all.
much.
I don't remember any last year. Anybody get in an umpire's face to that point? I mean,
I don't recollect. Well, I have to dig through the future to see, but no, I don't really
yeah.
remember much of that. No,
So they keep toning that down, right? And so the rule changes are kind of intriguing, and they're pointing in the right direction. They're doing the right things. But again, I think there's still that next level to reach for. And the WBC is fun because it shows you that, right? All the regular relegation things like the that we talk about, and but here you're talking about the amount of runs that you score actually impacting whether or not you make it in. Well, one of the I'll give you an idea that I'm thinking of for the CBA, right? Let's say Major League Baseball would give a player $2,000 for every stolen base.
So you're saying the league gives it. That's not the team. The
Right.
league is giving it. So
They use the
they're
luxury
encouraging the
tax
excitement,
money. Yes, exactly. So let's say you're a golfer. You have to earn it with a performance, right?
right?
It's the same kind of idea where you earn it with a performance. If you steal a base, you get $2,000 from the league. And I did the calculations. It would have cost them for 2025 about 6.8 million to pay all of the stolen bases, right? Is that worth it?
Oh yeah. I mean,
That,
there's
say
so many things that there's so many things you can do with it. Because if you're a Kyle Tucker or somebody, you can say, okay, and each one of those are going to this charity this week, this charity this week. And if nothing, but a lot of folks too, winning, stealing those bases, that count is something, but there's nothing like a little cash to go with it to make it, feel like an achievement. It's
Think about
sad
the
to say the
young
truth.
players though, Mark. Think about the young players that come up from AAA and they don't
Right.
have as much money and they steal a couple of bases. Boom, that's a little bit more money in their pocket. Think about the guys that are sitting there on first base and they haven't really been told to steal a base, but they're like, "Oh, I I'd like to get that money or whatever." And so my point is it could have taken that what would have cost them 6.8 million up to 8.5 million. Like, so let's say it's adding 15, 20, 30% more stolen bases. You've achieved what you wanted to achieve,
Yeah.
and all it cost you is $8 million. Like, really? Like, you're getting a more, exciting product on the field. Same thing with triples. I would make every triple $3,000 for obvious reasons.
Oh wow.
And so every triple, so now you're getting a guy that's going for the double and he's looking around. He's like, I can get that at 3,000, right? And again, you're increasing the excitement of the game because the guys know. Let's say that you throw out a runner at third base, you get a certain amount of money for that, right? From the outfield, same kind of thing. If you throw out a runner that's trying to steal, you get a certain amount of money. So you start monetizing the game in a different way. Now, the thing that sucks about it is that unlike other sports, you can't pay the player right now what we're doing is we're paying the players before they actually have to achieve it
Right.
based on the past, right? What I like about the system that I'm proposing is that it would be paying for the future, which is way more motivating, right? So it's essentially the carrot dangling in front of them instead of the stick hitting them in the back saying, you're getting paid this much, you're supposed to perform, right? It's the opposite kind of feeling to it. So I think that there's validity to it. Like just like we saw with players making certain demands, right? Like where you had them blocking trades when they're signing with a new team. You have the um what was the deferrals of contracts, right? Things get put
Mhm.
in and start getting used. I don't think it would take long for that to take off. All it takes is one or two teams to put it in and for it to work for all of a sudden the rest of the league to go, well, you know what, we'll do it. So internally, let's say you're a team like the Rays, right? The Rays are the perfect example. If you have a team that's willing to push the boundaries of something, it's the Rays. And so let's say the Rays looked around the roster and they said, you know what, Chandler, we know you're going to steal a whole bunch of bases, but even knowing that, we're gonna give everybody that steals a base, I don't know, 250 bucks. It doesn't have to be the same amount that I said for the league, but let's say they come up with an amount and they put that out there because you don't have to have it done before the contract if you're giving it away for free.
Right.
It's the carrot dangling in front of them. And you say every home run is 500 bucks, every this, every that, and they put that system in place. how much would that change the outcome, of the race? Could it be the next big thing, like for them to actually gain an edge over other teams? I don't
Wow. No, I like it. I was just my mind was running too. Would you even think of putting this with a AAA team, some sort of incentive as well?
know. And at a lower rate, yeah.
At a lower rate. And maybe that would help you define a little better where some talent is. I mean, if there's a way to I guess give them incentivize them at an earlier level. But I don't know. I like that. I like it a lot actually. So I keep thinking you need to be in those MLBP, MLB negotiations, brother. You need to be sitting down there with this pencil and scratching it all out and passing the
I'm the
paper
guy they
across the
put
table.
Yeah, I'm the guy they put in that room, that padded room, and they say, you know what, just brainstorm and write it all over the walls. And then you walk in the room after and you're like, oh my God, what is this?
Yeah, nothing like being in a padded room. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh no. I
Uh,
I no, I had more of this, executive room with you writing down a number on a scratch of paper and you turn over and you just slide it across the table to the other folks and
yeah.
see if they'll take it. But my gosh, yeah, man, I would love to see that though. It's some incentives for stealing bases and such, man. That keeps the game exciting without having to change the game.
And another thing I want, Mark, is I want a drone following the base stealers or the base runners around. I do. There's no reason to not have drones involved anymore. Like we have them. Like don't give me the old camera angles, the camera behind the pitcher and the catcher set up behind them. And I want action. Like think of it from a director's point of view, right? And we've seen it in the Olympics, we've seen it at WBC, we've seen it all over the soccer does it a really good job.
Yeah.
Football did a great job during the Super Bowl. Like there's a reason why people like it because it gives you such a complete different angle to it. Like imagine an action shot following along with Chandler Simpson as he's going around first and around second, then over to third. Like that would be an awesome thing to get to live through, and the chances of anybody knocking down a drone with a ball with like throw in from the outfield are like slim to none, right? Especially if you do it at certain heights. Like train your people, do it the right way, and you can make such a great marketing tool by doing it that way and selling the game because I do think that they need to focus more on how the game feels and looks from a
Mhm.
field level. And so get the fans in there, get dirty and they'll love it.
No, I'm ready. I'm ready. Sign me up.
Hmm.
Oh, I mean, I went to my first NFL game this year and watched the Bucks play. And I saw what I'd seen some of them were watching games on TV before about the cables and the cameras that just go down these cables, and
Yep.
try to catch those special moments and track as a player's running from one end of the field to the other. And I thought that had to be such a step up from the Goodyear blimp.
I
But
missed the blimps. Oh man, they
uh,
were awesome. The Bud
yeah.
Light and
But seeing this, and when they play that on the big screen there while you're there at the game, it's not just a scoreboard, but they turn it to a screen where you can see a play. I mean, to
Mhm.
me, that is huge. That's another thing I like to see.
Yeah.
Um, Coming back to the minor leagues just for a moment, at that game when I saw the Tigers and the Rays play, there's the simple things like they'll have something put underneath the hat on the screen, and you got to figure out the three items, which hat it's under, and those little things in between innings. Well, I thought it was another game that was coming up on the screen, and it said Rays challenge. I thought, oh, cool, it's a challenge for the Rays. How's this work? Oh, I didn't realize somebody had tapped the top of their hat or whatever, and they were questioning a call from the umpire. And I loved it because once I realized what they were doing and they were showing on the screen inside that stadium, where the ball came, it was being questioned whether it was a ball or a strike. And to sit in the stands, how many times have we seen umpires or just questions on the field that we never hear about? If we're at the game, and sometimes even the announcers don't know necessarily what's going on the field. But I love this because of the ABS system. It's right there in the field on the screen, showing me what's going on, and it's like I like that. There's just one more thing to like about baseball these days. So I appreciated that as a fan at the game.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great to see. There's so much technology, so many apps, so many things that baseball is able to add. So by the time that stadium gets built for the Rays, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for things to be included in there and the stadium to be built in a special way if they're smart about it, which I know they will be. A lot of those camera angles and things and wires and everything else that can help them achieve what we're talking about should be in there.
Yeah.
There's also, remember the time, I think it was football. It might have been a couple of other ones where they had cameras really low to the ground like you could see it. I think it was, well, they have them in the bases sometimes, right? In baseball.
Yeah.
That's one thing they've tried to do. They had the catchers wear GoPros or the umpires wear GoPros sometimes. But again, it's the jostling around that's different. With a drone, you're getting the really steady camera view, right? Because they're stationary. So that's the difference. So maybe like having the drone right behind the umpire, right? That like just a bit off and back, but that would be also a good view because you're seeing everything all at once. And you
Yeah.
don't really have to move that one around very often. So, yeah, a couple of times it'll make a great show, Mark, when a pitcher, throws one up just a bit outside and knocks the drone right out of the sky. That'll make a nice little explosion for everybody to zone in on.
Oh man. Hey, I'm jumping back here for a second, looking at the Italy Mexico game, and right now Italy's up 6-0 and bottom of the sixth. So Mexico's going to have to really do some moving if they're going to get there. You know who I want to say one more thing about WBC. When I saw Panama play the Tigers here, and it put a big smile on my face when I saw one of the people from Panama was Christian Bethencourt, because I thought you talk about a seasoned vet who maybe isn't really playing in MLB anymore, and I don't believe he is.
Yeah. Harold Ramirez is one of the guys that was doing really well for Colombia as well.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think he's among the leaders when it comes to hits overall in the tournament. So he can still play, he can still swing the bat. It's fun to see. Like there's so many X-rays. Yu Chang is out there too, and I know he wasn't around very long, but yeah, Harold Ramirez leads the tournament with 7 hits, along with Owen Caissie and Bo Jiang Moon. Uh, it's just
You're
fun
doing
to
better
say.
than I am, brother. Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, the game seems to be getting away from Mexico a little bit. They're down 6-0, but they took Aaron Nola off the mound, and the new pitcher that came in ended up walking Joey Ortiz. So like I said, sometimes you get a little bit of life when they start going to the relievers, and we'll see what Mexico can do over the next 4 innings.
Wow. Well, then Team USA may actually have it in after all. The absolute locked in buy-in that they thought they had was disproven, but the way this game's going, they may have it after all. So we'll see how that plays out. And this whole thing, it's going to pass in a couple of weeks. Nobody's going to be talking about it. I mean, literally, we are 2 weeks away from opening day, and by then, virtually everybody will have forgotten that there was even a World Baseball Classic. So,
It's true. It's
yeah.
true.
Hey, I got to tell you some fun things I've been doing lately. I've women in baseball with March being Women's Month. I've gotten a lot of people who say, "Hey, how about having so and so on the show and so and so?" Well, the next thing you know, I'm like, and I apologize, Matt. Usually, I like to try to get you on with some of these, but I've had a lady by the name of Jean Sarah. It's she was involved with the early days of Title IX and bringing women into the NCAA Division One, and that's going to make for an interesting show to listen to, folks. I'll tell you that one. And there's some interesting things going on with women in baseball. We're going to try to get Jane Levy back on here too, and if
Mhm.
everybody you can think of as well. I've got a couple things we'll talk about after the show, and it's exciting times. And then, wow, geez, my knees, man, it really is almost here. Next week, Women's Pro Baseball League in Fort Myers.
There
Yeah,
you
2 days
go.
spring training.
That's
Um,
awesome.
Well, I'm planning on being there, so we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, you'll have to let me know how the games are televised so I can tune in as much as I can. And yeah, I'm hoping that they actually do really well and get to pull, more teams into it over time.
I think there'll be a game where they actually play the Red Sox, at least a group of them will, and I want to see that. That should be
Mhm.
fun. I'll make sure I get that information to you and I'll put it out as well. Any other nuggets or something we want to cover here? I know we've done a lot, but
No, the last thing I would just say is like the minor you were saying some of the people were getting cut and demoted, for minor leagues.
yeah.
This is the time that those things start to happen. So it's kind of fun to see who they push up to that AAA level and who they keep down at the AA level, because that's usually where you're playing the most and paying attention to. So in the Rays case, there's a lot of fights going on right now with that. So I'd be curious to see if there's a trade or two out there that they end up making because of the last calls that they make at those levels, and to see how those rosters look. I think they tell you a lot about your future and your depth. So pay attention to those. Keep enjoying the baseball classic. And like you said, spring training is almost done already. Feels
Wow,
like it
Matt.
just started.
Yeah, my gosh, brother. Yeah, I've been able to get out a few more of those, and I'm glad I did. And it is like I said, they don't count, but they certainly are an indicator of what a team's thinking and what they might be able to do during
Mhm.
the rest of the year. So they count. All right, brother. Well, I want to thank you all again for joining us here today on Baseball Biz on Deck. And remember to like us, subscribe to us, love us, send us your emails and text, whatever. And we look forward to talking with you guys again real soon.
If you enjoyed this show, go ahead, like and subscribe to Baseball Biz on Deck. You may also find Baseball Biz on Deck on YouTube at iHeartApple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and at baseballbizondeck.com. Also, you can find Matt at matgermain.bskysocial. That's Matt at matgermain.bskysocial, or Mark at baseballbizondeck.bskysocial and Baseball Biz on Deck with Facebook.
I still have to order that gong.